What would you say if I told you that your people pleasing is not just random, but a trauma response? Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time seeing my face, then hello, my name is Debra, and over here I create conversations that are designed to help you think better, live better, and ultimately journey well. I create content for the deep thinkers. If you're the type to have a deep, meaningful conversation in the middle of the club, then I'm your girl. So if like me, you're on a journey of leveling up by working on your mindset, then make sure you go ahead and click subscribe so that you can be a part of this community. And while you're at it, why not follow me on Instagram too? So let's talk about where people pleasing comes from. Now, I'm someone who always knew that I was a people pleaser, but everything changed for me when I came across a tweet which said that your people pleasing is a trauma response. In many cases, it is a learned behavior and a defense mechanism, which in my case, I had developed in order to keep me safe. So a bit about my story. Growing up, I used to think that what was at the root of my people pleasing was that I was just too nice. I told myself that your niceness is the issue. Whereas when I really sat and I thought about it, I recognized that I had always been harboring negative feelings, thoughts, and emotions. It's just that I had got super good at this performative niceness. So I'd got very good at being pleasing to people. Now, when I dissect my behavior, I can see that my niceness was oftentimes in an attempt to get something back. So whether that was being liked, being chosen, or simply being safe, there was something that I was looking for in exchange for my performative niceness, which when you think about it, is not really that nice. What I'm able to understand now is that ultimately I was looking for safety and acceptance, two things which I felt were absent growing up. Now, a lot of this seeking for safety and acceptance came from a key relationship in my childhood where I was often judged, I was often not believed, and also misunderstood, which in turn taught me how to over-explain in a bid to be pleasing. By the way, comment below if you'd like a video breaking down over-explaining and how I've worked through it. I got you. So why is people pleasing dangerous? Number one, it can cause you to harbor resentment. Have you ever had that feeling where you have overextended yourself, you have signed up to do something which you know is beyond your capacity, beyond your interest, and doesn't even speak to you as a person, but here you are stretching yourself beyond what anyone asked, and no matter what you do, you can't actually enjoy that moment, and so you go home harboring this resentment and almost this feeling that they owe you. And all the while, the other person doesn't even know that you're offended. It's a bit like unforgiveness, drinking poison, but expecting someone else to feel sick. People pleasing can also lead to a loss of identity because over time, you become so good at this performance, you begin to lose touch with who you really are, what you really want, and what truly matters to you. Your priorities are all over the place. It becomes hard for you to distinguish between your voice and everyone else's. And ultimately, your vision and your identity become blurry. And finally, it can lead to burnout. I remember once upon a time, I worked in a role and I was just so grateful to have this opportunity that I would constantly overextend myself. By overextend myself, I mean sometimes working in the office till 10 p.m., 11 p.m., because I had an equation in my mind that the harder I work, the more I will be rewarded, not recognizing that the system itself is broken. Fast forward 3 years later, and though I am promoted, in theory, my salary has not reflected that. By the end of my time at that role, between the toxic manager and these lack of boundaries, I actually had to go on 3 weeks sick leave due to the burnout, which had caused anxiety, depression, and even impacted things like my hair and physical health. Needless to say, it was a hard time for your girl. Now, I'm going to hold your hand as I say this. You do not owe anyone their happiness, especially at the detriment of your own. By the way, in case you're wondering the end of that story, I absolutely cut ties. Okay, so Debra, I hear you. I understand that I'm a people pleaser, and I'm even beginning to get the dangers of it, but how do we actually overcome people pleasing? I'm glad you asked. Now, the first thing is to recognize the patterns. How does people pleasing show up for you? I want you to ask yourself the following questions. In what environment am I most likely to lean into people pleasing as a defense mechanism? What are the triggers? Are there any key people? For me, I recognize that people pleasing would often occur when I felt rushed or emotionally manipulated. And so one of the boundaries that I began to create was to release myself from the false sense of urgency. When you are in a rush, you do not make the best decision. So I began to do things to detach myself from that sense of hurry, such as telling people that I will need more time before I can get back to them, asking for more details, gathering more context. Before I hurriedly make a decision, I would pause and make sure that I am making an informed decision based on being able to consider the full picture. The second thing is to understand that no is a complete sentence. Now, this is for my recovering over-explainers. At first, when you practice this, it will feel strange. It might even feel like you're being rude, but what I advise is start small. So one of the ways that I did this was paying attention to my work emails. I recognized that I was someone who, in the work environment, could oftentimes be overly and unnecessarily apologetic. I can see that a lot of this stemmed from that same childhood relationship where I was often fighting to be on the side of rightness, to be on the side of justice. And so if the idea of practicing this face-to-face is intimidating for you at first, you can even begin by paying attention to your language over email or over text. Reread that message. Did you really need to apologize there? Have you actually done anything wrong? Is the situation truly unfortunate, or is it just what it is? This is how you begin to practice not over-explaining. Number 3 is to honor your capacity. Now, it's very hard to honor your capacity if you're not in touch with yourself. You're not in touch with how your body feels when you are at full capacity. And maybe you're not even aware of the opposite of that, how you feel when you are at your most relaxed, when you are flowing in a space of freedom. How do you respond? How do you show up? How do you communicate when you don't feel under the pressure of people pleasing? This is where you begin to define your boundaries for yourself. So asking yourself questions like, what will you not entertain within a friendship, within a relationship, or even from yourself? And I'll say this one to the last because this is what truly set me free. Eventually, you are going to need to accept that you will be the villain in someone's story. Now, people often say, if you put up boundaries, no one will die. And whilst that might be true, I'm going to be honest with you, something might die. It might be your relationship. It may be other people's perspective of you. It might even be a false identity that you had been known for. This is especially true for relationships which are formed through trauma bonding. As one party heals, that bond is broken. As you heal from people pleasing, you may become the villain in someone else's story, and you have to make peace with that. For me, I had to come to the conclusion that I would rather not be liked for who I am than be liked for portraying a false version of myself. If you're a recovering people pleaser, please drop below what has helped you on your journey. I really want to create a community here in the comment section where we share and we learn from one another. And if you found this video useful, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and share with someone who it might help. Until next time, I'll see you in the next video.